We all rely on farmers and ranchers, but farming is riskier than other businesses out there. Crop insurance helps farmers manage their risk. With crop insurance, farmers put skin in the game by paying premiums and shouldering deductibles. That keeps taxpayers from having to pick up the whole bill every time disaster strikes. Today, about 90% of U.S. farmland is insured, providing $100 billion in protection to more than 130 different kinds of crops. It's a testament to the program's success.
Thank you for joining us for this week's Agri-Pulse Washington Week in Review. I'm Spencer Chase, joined as always by Agri-Pulse Executive Editor Phil Brasher, as well as this week by NRCS Chief Terry Cosby. And Chief Cosby, we appreciate you joining us.
Well, hey, thank you for the invitation. It's always great to talk about USDA and some of the administration's priorities, and thank you for just having me.
Absolutely. Well, and as we mentioned before we pressed record here on a Friday morning, a lot of press releases in my inbox this week that included the letters NRCS, a lot of conservation funding announcements. Just Thursday, $225 million for the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. Earlier this week, $50 million to improve equity in conservation programs. An announcement earlier this week to double cover crop acreage. Some also additional announcements on some climate smart ag possibilities and in USDA's existing programs. But taking all of this together and kind of looking at, maybe a 30,000 foot view, wonder, Chief Cosby, if you could, just help us understand, with all these announcements in mind, what does conservation success look like for the Department of Agriculture, for NRCS?
That is a great question. And I will tell you, over my 40-year history of working for USDA, we've never had this type of opportunity on the conservation side. It is just such a joy to be chief at this moment and talk about all of the conservation that's happening across the country. And this is part of a bigger picture of the Biden-Harris administration's priorities, also Secretary Vilsack's, and we're talking about climate smart agriculture. And I think as we see some of the things that are happening around the country, from wildfires to drought to some of the flooding that we've seen, we know that there is a change in this weather pattern. And so a lot of these programs are speaking to that to try to help mitigate some of these things, whether we're talking about carbon sequestration or greenhouse gases. And so it's part of the bigger plan to help landowners around the country, build resilience in their farming operations and make sure they're taking care of the soil health, the water quality and quantity problems, or even the soil erosion problems across the country, because we know that without a lot of these programs, we would not be in the shape that we're in today, and that the future generations won't have anything to farm.
Chief, thanks again for being with us. I wanted to go back. Spencer mentioned the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, this RCPP. It's a program probably a lot of our viewers are not that familiar with. It's where you take money and leverage it with private organizations, local governments, and so forth. But could you talk about how that our viewers, whether they're farmers, they're out in the communities, how they may be affected or benefit from these type of projects that you're going to be funding through RCPP?
And that is a great question. Thank you, sir. And, I've been involved in RCPP, or the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, since we started it. I had one of the first programs in the state of Ohio that covered Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. It was it's in the western basin of Lake Erie, and very successful. It is an opportunity for the public and even farmers to participate. What we did there was the program brought in a lot of private folks to help. It leveraged a lot of the state and local dollars to get more conservation on the ground. It was a way for individuals and groups to really walk in and talk about, hey, we can help with this conservation need. And so it's been very successful. There's two legs to that program, but it's been very successful. And we have a lot of different RCPP projects running across the country, and partners have really stepped up and brought money and dollars to the table to match what the federal government is putting in. And so we've been able to expand that and cover a lot more acres than what we would have if we didn't have this program.
I want to ask you too about your staff and where you all are in terms of your ability to provide technical assistance, provide advice to farmers. Um, the chairwoman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, Deborah Stabenow, told us this week that once the Senate gets past this voting rights legislation, they're going to move back to elements of the Build Back Better bill, and particularly the claimant provisions and the agriculture provisions. It's got a lot of new funding for NRCS. But where are you all in terms of your staff, your ability to deliver funding and advice that the farmers need, whether it's cover crops or the other environmental conservation challenges that they have? How does that stand? You've had an issue with a number of openings, but where you stand now?
Well, it's been amazing the amount of work that we've done over the last 2 years with COVID looming out there above us. And, we've had to look at our offices and we look, and this is stuff that we use from the CDC. And also we have our own in-house pandemic coordinator working along with the department to look at, what the positivity rate is out there across the country. And so we've had to reduce staffing in some of our offices to 25%. And we look at this on a daily basis, and we've been able to raise some of those to 50%, and some of them also up to 75%. But with Omicron, we know that it's brought it back a lot of positivity rates pretty high. And so we've had to look at staffing. But I will tell you that it's been amazing the amount of work that we've done over the last 2 years in assisting farmers. We've had to adjust and adapt. We're doing a lot more stuff on the computer. We developed some new technology where landowners can sign documents and do this. And we also have where we've met people out in the open space. We talked across the hood of the truck. So I don't see any of the conservation work has fallen off. Matter of fact, I think we've gained momentum in doing this. And it's taught us that we can do this job remotely if we have to. And I think the staff has proved that. But, the 2,500 offices across the country, almost 11,000 employees within NRCS are doing an outstanding job out there. And we have not heard a lot of folks talk to us about anything that has happened, from the conservation side, but it's working, and we're happy with the work that's happening across the country.
I want to wrap up here today, Chief, talking about an announcement from earlier this week that $50 million in more than 100 partnerships to expand the equity and inclusiveness of USDA's conservation programs. Wondering if you could, maybe offer an explanation for someone that might not understand, why a program like this is needed. Where are the equity gaps and perhaps shortfalls in USDA's existing conservation structures that an announcement like this will help to close?
And what this is anyone that wants to participate in our programs, we want to make sure they have the knowledge to do so. And what we've tried to do here is that we want to get folks out in these communities and start talking about USDA and all the things that we offer. It is still amazing to me that there's still a lot of folks out there that really don't know about USDA and all of these programs that we offer. And so this was an attempt to do that. We have 118 U agreements across the country with community-based organizations, with universities of higher learning, whether they're 1862 or 1890, with individuals. And so it crosses the gamut of who these agreements went out to. And what they're going to be doing is going into a lot of these communities and talking to folks about USDA and the benefits that are offered here. And I think it's a great way to get the word out to individuals. And as I said, this covers all segments of society. When we talk about equity, we talk about everyone out there in the United States. It's just not for just a certain group of folks. But we know that the underserved communities have a long time have had troubles maneuvering some of these programs and understanding them. And so when we talk about underserved, we're talking about veteran farmers. We're talking about folks that want to get into farming, beginning farmers. And we also talk about the underserved communities out there. So it's it covers the gamut for everyone. So I think what you're going to see that every person that wants to benefit from the USDA program, what we've done this week will benefit those folks.
We've heard before about some oversubscription issues within existing USDA conservation programs at the existing resources that are available. Any concerns on your end on not trying to dismiss the merits, the benefits of doing some additional outreach, some additional information to these underserved communities? But let's say that some folks do decide to take advantage of these programs. Any potential oversubscription concerns you might have by adding to the audience of people that might be interested in USDA's conservation opportunities, considering the existing resources that's available to USDA's NRCS?
I think what you're going to see here is that we're currently staffing up. The secretary has been very aggressive in helping us staff up with employees. We hired over the last 2 years, we've hired 3,000 employees. Over the next 2 years, we hope to hire about the same. We do have folks leaving, retiring, this type thing. But I think with some of the staffing up we're doing, and then when you see programs like RCPP, where we're bringing partners in to help us, we don't do this job alone. There's a lot of folks out there across the country that are partners in helping us do this. And I think with all the partnerships we have with folks like the National Association of Conservation Districts, Ducks Unlimited, the Wild Turkey Federation, you name it, we have a partnership with them, and they're out there assisting us and helping us to meet this challenge. Another thing I'd like to mention is that we're doing a lot in the urban area right now, and so it's not only rural America. We are in the urban areas, helping there, because we know that a lot of folks now want to grow local and buy local.
So as we mentioned at the top of the recording here today, a lot of announcements, a lot of funding from USDA's NRCS this week, and Chief Cosby, we appreciate you stopping by to join us to learn a little bit more about some of these programs.
Anytime. We sure like get down to talking about what we're doing, and it takes all of us to do this, especially the landowners and land users around the country, and we just so happy just to be of service.
Well, for Phil Brasher and Chief Terry Cosby, I'm Spencer Chase. Have a good one.